Today I'm gonna be showing you how I like to make my smash burgers. This is a very simple and delicious recipe. The first thing we're gonna need is ground beef. Here I have 1.5 pounds of 80/20 meat. Now for the seasonings, I like to keep it very simple. I have right here 2 tablespoons of salt, then I have 2 tablespoons of MSG. Trust me on this one. 1 tablespoon of black pepper, or you could also use white pepper, and 1 teaspoon of garlic powder. Now for the condiments, I always like to keep it simple. I use 1/4 cup of mayonnaise and 2 tablespoons of ketchup. Then we also gonna need cheese, but this is just a preference. You could use the most common one, which is the American slices, or you could use my favorite one, which is the extra sharp cheddar slices. Then for the bread, I like to use brioche burger buns. The first thing we need to do is to make the seasoning. Now, if you want to make the seasoning that is just enough for this recipe, you're going to need 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of MSG, 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper, and 1/8 teaspoon of garlic powder. Now, a little note on the garlic powder. I do not know why brands do this, but you see both of these are called garlic powder. But as you could tell, both of them look different in texture. One is the actual powder and this one is actually granulated garlic. So this last one is the one I use. And this is important because if you use a garlic powder that is an actual powder, the taste and the seasoning will be very, very strong. Now, if the very fine powder is all you have, then by all means use it, just use less. Now, if you only made a little bit of the seasoning mix, then you could leave it in the little dish you mixed it in. But if you made the big batch of the seasoning, then you could store this in a spice jar, or you could use an old empty spice bottle and just store it there. Then we need to make the sauce. By this time, you're probably thinking, why are we making these things first instead of the burgers? And it's because the burgers cook very, very fast. So it's better to have everything in place beforehand. Now, this mayo ketchup could be your sauce or it could be the base for your sauce. I like to make it this simple because like this, everybody will eat it because sometimes people don't like X, Y, or Z. So I like it this way. But you can make this sauce better. You can add mustard, you can add chopped pickles, you can add sauteed onions, and trust me, it is absolutely delicious. Then we need to divide the meat. What I like to do is kind of put the meat together like in a big log and then divide it in half, and then that half in half, and then again in half until we divide the meat into 8 balls. Now, when dividing the meat, you could just kind of eyeball it, but if you want, you could weight this. And each ball should weigh about 3 ounces. About. You don't have to be exact. And remember, this is just the preference. You could add more meat to each ball or you could add less. Then after I divide the meat, what I like to do is take each portion and roll it into a ball, kind of compress the meat together. This part is important because you don't want the meat falling apart, and sometimes when you skip this step and you smash the meat, you will get like gaps in the burger patty. So this step here will prevent this. Then put the meat in the fridge while you finish the rest. Then what I like to do is cut up some parchment paper so I could put it in between the meat patties and my tool or the spatula so the meat won't stick to it. And here I'm showing you what I will be using to smash the burgers. This is a meat press or a burger press, I don't know, whichever you call it. But if you don't have one, you could use a sturdy spatula. And this is what I'll be using, but I'm gonna show you how I used to do it before I used to have this tool. But the reason that I used to make the patties this way, it was not because I didn't have a meat press. It was because I like to make thin burgers. And this was way before smash burgers were popular or even a thing. I didn't even know about smash burgers. It was just, this is the way I like the meat to be. So what I used to do was take 2 pieces of parchment paper and then put the meat in between those 2 pieces and then smash it until I had a very, very thin burger patty. Now, I really don't know if this will still technically be a smash burger, but trust me, they are delicious also this way. Now it's time to cook the burgers, and for this, I'll be using an electric griddle. But to make smash burgers, I feel like you're better off making them in the stove because it could get hotter. Then I set the griddle to 425, and the first thing I do is I add some butter and let it bubble. Then I just put my bread on top. I leave the bread there until it's nice and toasty for about a minute. And I like to move it all around so it could brown evenly. But I bet you don't have to move it around like I do. And just look how delicious the bread looks by itself. This was the brioche bread, but I also like using potato bread. But if all you have is regular burger buns, then use that. After you finish toasting all the bread, then just put the meat in the griddle. And remember to leave some space in between the meat, about 3 to 4 inches, because once you press it, the meat will spread and you don't want it to touch. We're going to cook the patties for about 2 minutes. Then we're gonna take a piece of parchment paper and place it on top of each ball. Then press hard until you get a flat patty. You need to make sure that you press down hard enough so the patty could get thin. That's why I kept pressing down on the meat so it could be nice and thin. Then you're just gonna keep on pressing down on all the patties you put on your griddle. Now you could avoid using the parchment paper if you just put the meat, let it cook for a little bit for about 10-15 seconds and flip the ball and then press it. Trust me, it won't stick. And as you can see, even with the parchment paper, sometimes the meat stick to it, so you gotta be careful when you're removing that. But I also like using the parchment paper because when you make these burger patties, the fat will jump up and then it will burn your hand. So this kind of helps when I'm pressing down. Then we're gonna season the patties with 1/4 of a teaspoon of the seasoning mix we made. I tend to flip the patties after 1 minute and 15 seconds or 1 minute and 30 seconds, and then you only have like 30 seconds left to cook. Then in the last 15 to 10 seconds is where I put my cheese. Now you see me here, I didn't put a whole slice of cheese because I don't want too much cheese. But if you like a lot of cheese, then by all means. Then what I do is I stack the patties one on top of the other and I take them out. A little tip when cooking burgers, make sure you cover your surfaces around because they will get greasy. Now all you have to do is assemble your patty. Then the first thing I do is I put some condiment on the bread. I only put about 1 teaspoon to 1.5 teaspoons per side because you don't want too much sauce. If you put a lot of sauce in the bread, when you put the meat, it will start slipping around. But this is just all a preference, so if you like a lot of sauce, then by all means put a lot of sauce. Then place the meat on the bread, then put the bread on top, and there you have a delicious smash burger. Trust me, it is so good and the meat so tender. It's just absolutely delicious, and the toppings are all up to you. But now I'm gonna show you how I like to make my smash burger. In Puerto Rico, we have a dish that is called pastelón, and it's a casserole made with ground beef and sweet plantains. And this is what I'm trying to do in a burger. So we could call this a pastelón smash burger. In the original pastelón, we put some eggs in between the meat. So of course, we're gonna add an egg to the smash burger. So what I do is I toast my bread and then I beat 1 egg and put it to cook. While the egg cooks, you can heat up the sweet plantains or you can fry them at the same time, but I rather fry them first and then just heat them up while I finish cooking the egg. Then take the egg and the sweet plantains and put it on the side of the griddle until you cook your meat. Put some cheese on top of your patties and assemble. Now, when making a pastelón smash burgers, I do not put any ketchup, mayonnaise, or any condiments. I will leave the pastelón recipe link in the description below just in case you want to make it. Then for the burger, we just stack up the egg, the sweet plantains, and you are ready to enjoy a delicious smash burger, but the Puerto Rican way. Thanks for watching and buen provecho.